The time has come to unleash Nick Robertson. Welcome to From Center Ice. My name is Courtney and I am here to recap the game that was last night between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Dallas Stars. There were a few different storylines coming into this game, especially the Dallas Stars being undefeated so far in this season. With some of the moves they made in the offseason, a lot of people expected them to be worse this year, but I don't think that anybody expected Jake Oettinger to give up only 1 goal per game in his first 3 starts. We all knew based on his first round last year against the Calgary Flames that he was indeed going to be a very good to great goaltender in the NHL, but that is just some incredible stuff from the kid. But last night, the Leafs did not see Jake Oettinger. They saw Scott Wedgewood in net. This was his first appearance of the season. Last year, he finished out the year with the Dallas Stars after making stops with the New Jersey Devils and the Arizona Coyotes. And recently, he has just been a very strong backup goaltender in the NHL. So even though the Leafs were playing the backup Tendy and not Oettinger, it was still going to be a pretty tough task. Plus, this is the Toronto Maple Leafs we are talking about, and they love losing to the backup goaltenders. Or Zamboni drivers. Toronto, on the other hand, was coming into this game with a record of 2-2-0. Ilya Samsonov, who would be in net for Toronto last night, was undefeated so far on the season, getting the only 2 wins for the Maple Leafs so far. Matt Murray got the first loss of the season, and Erik Källgren got the second loss of the season. And no, the Leafs aren't just carrying 3 goaltenders. Matt Murray is already on injured reserve. You just can't make these things up sometimes. Of course, we hope for a speedy recovery and he's able to come back and have a great season for the Leafs, but really, he played 1 game. And now he is out for at least a month with an adductor injury, and I'm not really sure what that is. I didn't want to look it up because I didn't want to then end up speculating on how that would impact his play going forward. All I know is he is out. This is Samsonov's best chance to take that #1 role and run with it. And aside from maybe 1 or 2 questionable goals, he's looked really good in net for Toronto so far. So we'll see. It was also Nick Robertson's first game of the season for the Leafs, and Victor Mete's first game of the season for the Leafs, because Jake Muzzin is also already on IR. And that one I feel is a little bit my fault because I had just picked him up for my fantasy team. He played less than a game and then he's injured again. I'm so sorry. I did not mean to do this. I did not pick up another Leaf to replace him, do not worry, but I do also have William Nylander on my team, so maybe keep that in mind. But anyway, records and first games of the seasons aside, the Toronto Maple Leafs also lost to the Arizona Coyotes in their last game. Now, to the casual fan, maybe that comes as sort of a surprise, or at least sounds kind of surprising, as long as you know what the expectations are for both teams. But for us Leafs fans, it was the least unexpected thing ever. The Leafs lose to bad teams to make you go through a mini mental crisis every time, or maybe a large mental crisis every time, no judgment. And especially the Coyotes. I don't know if it's the Auston Matthews factor, but that team just seems to have the Leafs number. So while I was hoping, and I'm sure all of Leafs Nation was hoping, that this first game of the season against the Arizona Coyotes here in the 2022-23 NHL season would be a bit different than in seasons recently past, it wasn't. So then they go from that game to a game against the Dallas Stars, who had up to that point been undefeated. Surely this would be a fantastically fun game. As promised, I'm here to recap it for you. As every game does, we start in the first period, and the first period of last night's game got off to kind of a slow start between the two teams. Maybe slow is the wrong word, but unexciting, unenthusiastic, boring. It took 7 minutes into the first period for either team to get a registered shot on net. Now, that doesn't mean there weren't shot attempts or shot blocks, but to get the first registered shot on net, it took 7 minutes of game time. There was one exciting moment where, while the Leafs were killing a penalty, Pierre Engvall and Victor Mete, in his first game of the season for the Leafs, were on a short-handed 2-on-1 rush the other way. Engvall had the puck, got it over to Victor Mete, no dice. But that first penalty kill also didn't allow a shot on goal, so we'll take it. After the first shot was finally registered, both teams started getting some shots toward the net, some scoring chances even. But 14 minutes and 45 seconds into the first period, the Dallas Stars dumped the puck into the offensive zone. Lundqvist, no, not the goalie, but acquired from the Rangers, he threw the puck to the net. Samsonov comes up with the stop, but he kicks out a rebound right into the middle of the slot. Luke Glendening on a fourth line shift pounces on the loose puck and puts it right past Samsonov. 1-0 Dallas. And I'd have to say that was rather unfortunate. Samsonov had looked good prior to that, and the Leafs had gotten some scoring chances, but Scott Wedgewood was shutting it down on the other side of the ice. And then one ill-advised rebound, and that puck is in the back of the net. You can't blame Samsonov for not stopping the second chance from Luke Glendening, but it was his rebound that caused the puck to be laying there in prime scoring area. But it is what it is. It's only the first goal of the game in the first period. The Leafs have plenty of time to come back from that. And then, in typical Toronto Maple Leafs fashion, they head to the penalty kill almost immediately after the goal was scored. Thankfully, no damage done there, and the Leafs did happen to also draw a penalty, so they ended up with just under a minute of 4-on-4 time. But the Leafs offense just really couldn't get anything going in the first period. Like I said, they had some chances, but they did only end up with 6 shots on goal in the first period compared to Dallas's 11. And if you thought the ineffective offense itself was bad news, with about a minute and a half to go in the first period, we see Auston Matthews laboring to the bench and then in a lot of pain, seemingly while he is sitting there on the bench, because Jamie Benn, as Jamie Benn does, took his stick, two-handed, cross-checked him right in the hip. Just thinking about that makes me hurt. And while Auston Matthews has hockey gear on, I have a lot more padding than he does there for sure. Thankfully, that's typically not the type of thing to keep somebody out long-term unless you really hit them in the wrong spot. But man, that had to feel very not good for Auston. But it was weird because before the cross-check even happened, I was wondering if Auston Matthews was playing through something. Maybe he tweaked something during another game or practice, because he just looks off. And I know during the game last night, Sportsnet did put up a graphic showing how Auston Matthews had a slow start to last season and only had 1 goal in his first 4 games as he did this year. But you can't tell me he just doesn't look off. So I don't know if it was him just playing through something or if it's just him just trying to kick it into gear at the beginning of a season. No matter what it is, if the Leafs are going to have success this year, they are definitely going to need Auston Matthews to kick it up a notch. But neither team scored to end the first period, so they took that 1-0 Dallas lead into the first intermission. On to the second period. Luckily for the Leafs, it didn't seem like Dallas was too keen on holding that 1-goal lead. Miro Heiskanen took a tripping call early in the second period after not getting called for one on David Kampf in the first period. So while that first missed call was very frustrating, it's good that he did end up getting called for one in the second period, and it was especially good this time because 2 minutes and 31 seconds into the second period, the Leafs have possession in the offensive zone on the power play. Rasmus Sandin takes a shot toward the net from the point. It is deflected out in front by Michael Bunting. That doesn't go in. Scott Wedgewood makes the save, but Wedgewood must have taken note from Ilya Samsonov's first period because he kicked that rebound right out to a prime scoring area for Alexander Kerfoot to just step into the shot and roof it over Wedgewood's glove. Tie game, 1-1. 2-1. And Alexander Kerfoot with a power play goal. Strange, but I'll take it. I always love seeing Kerfoot get goals or making good plays during games. He seems to get a lot of hate from different people around the internet, and maybe it's because of his contract, maybe it's because they held on to him during the expansion draft. I don't really know, but he's just a solid forward who could move up and down the lineup. Is he a perfect player? No, but he's a guy that you don't mind having on your team. And when no one else is doing it, he scores on the power play. His teammates must also like seeing him scoring because after Kerfoot tied up the game, it seemed to put some life back into the Maple Leafs. And there were times in this game where, at least to me, it looked like they needed to be revived a bit. Miro Heiskanen went back to the box for roughing this time. Unfortunately, the Leafs could not capitalize on the power play. Then you have Auston Matthews, who was already in pain from taking that cross-check in the first period from Jamie Benn. With about 11.5 minutes to go in the second period, just stepping in front of a shot for a huge shot block with the inside of his foot. Not necessarily the guy you want to see doing that, but also kind of the guy you want to see doing that, because if your big stars are stepping up to block shots, then that should really infuse that throughout the lineup. And any shot that's blocked is one that does not make it to the goaltender, and any shot that does not make it to the goaltender is one that has very less likely chance of going in. I would say a 0% chance, but this is the Maple Leafs. Anything is possible. Thankfully, Auston wasn't very shaken up from that, or at least it didn't seem so. It seemed like the cross-check put him in some worse pain than the shot block did. We had some more 4-on-4 time, and that included Scott Wedgewood making a huge 5-hole stop on Morgan Rielly. I do believe on the replay it showed the puck was tipped, which maybe helped Wedgewood out a little bit, or maybe the puck wouldn't have even gone toward the 5-hole and would have just hit him directly in the pad. We will never know. But speaking of goaltenders making big saves, one thing I'm really going to need the Maple Leafs to stop doing is turning the puck over right in front of their goaltender. Last night we saw the captain, John Tavares, do it. A very ill-advised turnover with about 9 minutes to go in the second period. He is just directly off to the side of Samsonov's stick side. Has the puck, no big deal. Immediately turns it over. That's kind of a big deal, but an even bigger deal, Samsonov comes up with the massive save to keep this game tied 1-1. But oh my god, Leafs, I'm going to very much need you to stop doing that. These guys are goaltenders for the Toronto Maple Leafs. That job is already hard enough with how cursed this team is. They do not need you making their job any harder by giving up quality scoring chances while they think that you have control of the puck. Thankfully, Samsonov does his job well. He was paying attention, and even though Tavares had the puck, he was ready to go. But please, just give your goaltenders a break. It's like a tale of two styles here. First, you have Auston Matthews with a huge shot block helping out his goaltender and potentially bruising up his foot in the process. That is good. Maybe not the bruise, but you know, the helping out the goaltender part. Then, you have John Tavares turning the puck over right in front of Samsonov, where Dallas then gets a quality shot on the net. That is bad. If only we could have some consistency of the former. Again, not the injuries or the bruises, but you know, the helping out of the goaltender part. Anywho, then John Tavares does draw a penalty late in the second on the rookie Wyatt Johnston. The Leafs also do not score on that power play, and I have to think that a lot of that is due to where Auston Matthews was standing. How often do we see him taking those shots from the right side of the ice and just bombing that thing on the net? Or sometimes even from the left side of the ice. Or maybe he's just skating all around the zone, causing complete havoc and making the defenders not know where to go. But last night, he was really just camped out in the bumper spot and in front of the net. And while having a big, strong guy like Auston Matthews in front of the net to fight for rebounds and bang in goals from there, it's also a lot easier for the defense to shut him down if they have him contained in their box. I don't know if this is just a new thing that the coaching staff is trying out. I don't know if he did this last year, but they were just more effective, so it didn't stick out as strange to me. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And like I said, the Leafs did not score on that power play, and as Wyatt Johnston was coming out of the box, Dallas hit him with a pass that sent him on a 1v1 rush with Rasmus Sandin, who then made a very great defensive play to break up the scoring chance. So kudos to the kid there. I am very glad that they got the whole contract situation worked out and he ended up signing with the Leafs. I think there's a lot of promise there in that kid. He showed a lot already and he's still very young. And it's weird to say on such a young Leafs team, but their defense core isn't all that young, really. They're a little older there on the back end. And you also have Jake Muzzin always getting injured, and Giordano took a rough fall into the boards last night. He laid on the ice there for a couple of seconds, and I thought he should have gone off at least to the concussion spotter. But what do I know? And with 4.8 seconds remaining in the second period, Mason Marchment went off to the penalty box, so the Leafs would be able to open the third period on the power play, because of course they didn't score in the remaining 4.8 seconds. So much better than being down 1-0 heading into the first intermission. These teams took a 1-1 tie into the second intermission. And like I said, after Kerfoot tied up the game, that really did give the Leafs some life. If you recall, the shots on goal at the end of the first period were 11-6 in favor of the Dallas Stars. At the end of the second period, the shots on goal were 23-17 in favor of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So it was their turn to hold the Stars to only 6 shots in a period. Meanwhile, they took 17. So they were definitely shooting the puck more and definitely getting some better chances, but to me, at least, they still didn't really look all that dangerous. Maybe Scott Wedgewood was just making his job look very easy by being calm in the net and making the saves that he needed to make. But there are times when you can just feel like the Leafs are going to score because they are just pouring it on and getting quality chance after quality chance. And while they did get 17 shots in that second period, which is what you expect the Maple Leafs to do, they just didn't seem dangerous to me. And one thing I'll note is that it did look like Mitch Marner was out there trying a lot. Like, he really wanted to create things and set up his teammates for goals and make things happen. But the other guys up front were just not helping him out at all. So, on to the third period. And 1 minute and 59 seconds into the third period, the Maple Leafs get the puck deep in the offensive zone, and from the left corner, William Nylander is able to ring the puck around the boards to the right point. Nick Robertson is able to get his stick on it and bat it down into the right corner before taking a hit. Thankfully, he was fine, just bumped up against the boards, as happens in hockey games. But after he takes the hit, and as Michael Bunting gets the puck down in the right corner, Nick Robertson starts heading toward the net. Bunting sees him. He hits Nick Robertson with a nice pass, and from the bottom of the right circle, Robertson just rips a wrister short side on Scott Wedgewood. 2-1 Leafs. And Nick Robertson, in his first game of the season against his brother Jason, who plays for Dallas, he gets on the board. It's a huge goal. It's a nice shot, and it gives his team the 2-1 lead. And while it was a beauty, it should not come as a surprise. Nick Robertson looked really good for the Leafs in preseason. But, you know, they always have their cap issues, and I feel like if they didn't have to maneuver guys around because of the cap, then Robertson would have made the team out of camp. Unfortunately for him, he doesn't have to go through waivers, so it's easier for the Leafs to send him down, clearing up some of that money. Unfortunately, he's also dealt with a lot of injuries and missed time in his very young career so far, so he hasn't really had the chance to prove he belongs in the NHL or deserves to stay. But with the way he looked in preseason, I felt like he deserved to make the team. And I think he did too, because in his first game of the season last night, he came out and he was on fire, got the Leafs on the board, and was really just active all night. I did mention how it looked like Mitch Marner was trying out there, trying to create things. But Nick Robertson also, he was all over the ice, making plays in all 3 zones. He was surprisingly more effective defensively than I thought he was going to be. The kid's future is bright as long as he can stay healthy. But that was only the beginning of the period, so moving on a little bit, Nick Robertson almost scores again, but he shoots the puck wide, unfortunately. And then Alexander Kerfoot giveth, Alexander Kerfoot taketh away. As he has the puck in the defensive zone, he is just trying to clear it out, and oh, that horrible, horrible sight that you see as the puck leaves your skater's stick and just goes directly over the glass. That, my friends, is a delay of game that put him in the box for 2 minutes. Or it would have put him in the box for 2 minutes if it weren't for the fact that 7 minutes and 21 seconds into the third period, only 9 seconds after that puck went over the glass, Tyler Seguin gets on the board. The Dallas Stars get the puck to the net. You have Mitch Marner and Tyler Seguin both going toward the net, Mitch trying to play defense and prevent a goal, Tyler Seguin trying to be there to clean up any loose pucks and get the puck into the back of the net. Unfortunately, in both of them going in that direction, they run into Ilya Samsonov. Nothing he could do, the puck ends up behind him as he is shoved, and the game is tied 2-2 maybe? They are looking at the play. So initially, the refs had waved it off immediately due to incidental contact with the goaltender. So, no goal. Well, Dallas was very, very adamant that that was going to be a good goal, so coach's challenge. Ah, the beloved challenge. And once the officials were able to look at the play again, see how the puck entered the net, they ruled that most of the contact was due to Mitch Marner hitting Samsonov, not Tyler Seguin, even though he did end up touching Samsonov and was also shoving Marner. So because Samsonov was not able to play his position due to being run into by his teammate, that means there was no incidental contact or no goaltender interference. Good goal for Dallas. And this play was one that I thought could go either way. We've certainly seen it go both ways, because if there is one thing that is certain in the NHL, it's that nobody is certain what goaltender interference is. And I'm not going to sit here and say that they got the call wrong, because most of the contact definitely did come from Mitch Marner on the goaltender, even though, again, he was being kind of pushed by Seguin, but Mitch has to be able to control himself there. And one play that this did remind me of was, think all the way back to a couple months ago, to the playoffs, when you have the Colorado Avalanche up against the St. Louis Blues. Of course, Jordan Binnington is involved here. Former Maple Leafs Calle Rosen and Nazem Kadri both are driving toward the net. They end up running into Jordan Binnington. He gets injured, is out for the rest of the playoffs. There was a whole argument online. Is this Kadri's fault? Blah, blah, blah. Should he be suspended for this? Look at his history. And a lot of people taking the rational route in that argument were saying that because of Calle Rosen also running into Naz, that is why they collided with Jordan Binnington like they did. And I just felt watching this play last night, obviously it was very different from that because there were no injuries or anything of the sort, but I felt like if I was so adamant that that play was not Kadri's fault because the defender was also involved there and also made a lot of the contact with the goaltender, that I could not then sit there, watch this play last night and be like, yep, they gotta call that off because Seguin obviously is shoving Mitch Marner into the goalie because he wants to shove Samsonov into the net, making it impossible for him to make the stop, so then therefore they get the goal. And I know it is not that cut and dry, it is not that black and white, this is goaltender interference we are talking about, or incidental contact with the goaltender, but that was the first play that came to mind when I was trying to figure out whether I would call it a good goal or not. So like I said, I'm not going to sit here and say that was the wrong call, just like I wouldn't sit here and say that is absolutely the right call if they did rule it a no goal, because we have seen it go this way, that way, and every way in between. None of us know what goaltender interference is, so I'm just gonna take their word on it this time. It was a good goal for Dallas, and the game was tied 2-2. The Leafs did get some more power play chances in the third period after Seguin had scored. One when Auston Matthews was just tackled to the ice. That guy took a beating last night. But the Leafs couldn't score on any of those chances or any even strength chances. Also, Dallas could not score on any of their chances. So this game went into the third intermission, sort of, tied 2-2. The shots on goal were now 40-27 in favor of Toronto. The Leafs getting 17 shots in the third period, again matching their second period total, and the Dallas Stars getting 10. And of course I say third intermission, sort of, because there's not an actual intermission in the regular season between the third period and overtime. There's just a commercial break while they clean up the ice a bit. So on to overtime! And the Toronto Maple Leafs have about 50 seconds of carryover power play time, making it 4-on-3 to start the overtime period. But they don't score on it. And there weren't a lot of scoring chances either way in overtime. Until 3 minutes and 46 seconds into the overtime period, the Dallas Stars get a 2-on-1 rush with only Nick Robertson back. He is not a defenseman. He was out on the ice with Morgan Rielly and Auston Matthews, so obviously you would rather have Morgan Rielly back there in that position as the defenseman on that line. But Nick Robertson actually played that very well while the other two were rushing back to help him out. He was able to hold off the shot attempt or pass long enough for Auston Matthews to get back and help him knock that puck free off of the Dallas stick. The puck went to Morgan Rielly, who then passed it to Nick Robertson. That began the breakout. Nick Robertson broke into the offensive zone, saw Auston Matthews cutting up the middle of the ice, passed it to him just as he crossed over the blue line. Auston Matthews, seeing the play develop, hits Nick Robertson once again with the pass as he's in the right circle at the face-off dot. Nick Robertson one-times that puck past Scott Wedgewood's glove. The Toronto Maple Leafs win in overtime, 3-2. Nick Robertson with a hell of a shot after a very nice defensive play in the opposite end. That is Nick Robertson's first overtime game-winning goal in the National Hockey League. That is Nick Robertson's first multi-goal NHL game. He got the lead for the Leafs, and then he won the game for the Leafs. What a night for the kid, again facing his brother Jason, who plays for Dallas, one of the best young forwards in the NHL. And last night it was not Jason, but it was Nick Robertson who got 2 goals in the game and got the game winner for his team. And you could see how amazing that felt to him just from watching the celebration after that puck went into the net. He was so excited, and he should be. That was an amazing shot. It was an amazing play. What an end to that game. And credit to Auston Matthews for not taking the shot there, seeing Nick Robertson wide open for the good shot opportunity, getting that pass over to him. It was one heck of a pass after breaking up the play at the other end. And maybe Auston didn't look impressive many other times during this game, but that was a shift from number 34. And it was his 200th career assist. So there were all sorts of good feelings to go around. The Leafs win in overtime, 3-2. They led 43-28 in shots on goal. They also led 21-15 in blocked shots, and they won 52% of the faceoffs in that game. Now, where things don't look so good for the Leafs, the Toronto Maple Leafs, who you think of as a high-scoring team, a high-powered offense, were 1 for 8 on the power play. Yikes. Dallas was 1 for 4. So they didn't do much better, but that's a better percentage than Toronto's. Still only 1 goal, but still 1 for 8? That's just unacceptable. But how about the goaltenders in that game? First up, Scott Wedgewood making 40 of 43 saves. That is a .930 save percentage. And for Toronto, Ilya Samsonov made 26 of 28 stops for a .929 save percentage. It wasn't looking good for a little bit, but that ended up being a great win for the Leafs. But I feel like the big guys on this team need to go watch the replay of that overtime goal a few times and just see how happy and how excited Nick Robertson was after he scored. They need to remember the joy of playing hockey, because I don't know what it is, but they look one of miserable, complacent, or bored out there. And maybe they're frustrated because the season isn't getting off to this blazing hot start like maybe they wanted it to, or they know that the regular season doesn't really matter, it's the playoffs that matter, but you have to win regular season games to get to the playoffs. And I'm not going to sit here and be upset with them if not every player doesn't give 100% every night, because it is a long season, but they are energized, they are ready to go come playoff time. But they at least look like they're having a bit more fun out there usually. I don't know, from the body language I saw last night up until Nick Robertson's winner, they just didn't look like they were having a good time. So I'm gonna need them to go rewatch that replay and remember the joy that comes from hockey and why they started doing this in the first place. Because something is just off with this team. They do have a winning record, 3-2-0 now, all 3 of those wins coming from Samsonov, and they have even led in shots on goal in each game they have played, so it feels weird to say this about a team who has led in shots and who is getting wins, but they need to shoot the puck more. There are too many plays in the offensive zone where they're just missing passes or just turning the puck over from trying to force things. Just get the puck to the net. That is when the Leafs are the most effective, when they aren't just cruising around the offensive zone. So if they're not going to do that, they need to just get every puck they can to the net. Again, it sounds funny for a team who has led in shots every game, sometimes by a significant margin, but that's just one of the things that I have noticed so far. Especially Auston Matthews. Something is just off about the guy, and I hope that it is like what Sportsnet was saying, and it's just a slow start to the season, because the Leafs can't really afford for it to be something else. But that's a lot of negativity, so here are a couple bright spots that I took away from the game. Of course, the first being Nick Robertson, 2 goals on the night for the kid, and he had really solid two-way play and was making plays in all 3 zones on the ice. He was definitely very impressive last night. John Tavares had 8 shots on goal. I don't know when that happened, but that's what NHL.com registered. I will take that as a positive, as somebody who just said this team needs to shoot more. And Ilya Samsonov, very solid in net for the Maple Leafs. Of course, outside of the first goal of the game last night when he did give up that juicy rebound, but after that, he shut it down, and the only other goal of the game on him was because he was shoved into the net. So Nick Robertson, John Tavares, Ilya Samsonov, those are the bright spots that I took away from last night. Of course, there were more. Let me know if there were some more that you noticed that you want to give a shout out to. Put those down in the comments. But next up, the Leafs take on the Winnipeg Jets Saturday night, 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 o'clock here for me in Illinois. Going into last night, Winnipeg had a 2-1-0 record, but they did lose to the Vegas Golden Knights last night after David Rittich did not have a good showing in net. So it is very likely that the Maple Leafs see good old Connor Hellebuck in net on Saturday. Before last night, he had played every game for Winnipeg so far, so he had the 2-1-0 record with a .922 save percentage. Not too bad there. Their top 3 scorers are Scheifele, Ehlers, and Sam Gagner, but Nikolai Ehlers was just placed on IR today. Scheifele has 3 goals. Ehlers has 3 assists, but he's on IR, so they won't see him tomorrow. And Sam Gagner has 2 goals. Of course, that was before last night's game. The game was still going on as I was making my notes last night. When it comes to the Leafs, their top guys are William Nylander, Morgan Rielly, Michael Bunting, and Mitchell Marner. Nylander with 3 goals, 2 assists. Rielly has 5 assists. Bunting has 1 goal and 3 assists. And Mitch has 1 goal and 3 assists as well. So it looks like it's going to be another good game, hopefully, for the Toronto Maple Leafs Saturday night. It's not against the Arizona Coyotes, so it's gotta be, right? What I'm looking for in that one is for the offense to just show up a bit more. And maybe Nick Robertson can keep adding to those point totals. That would be pretty nice too. I swear he better be back in the lineup. But this is the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm not going to bank on it. I'm just going to hope. I feel like you can say that about most things with this team. But this is a very, long video for this game. It was just very exciting because it was Nick Robertson's awesome first game of the season, and it's a little frustrating watching these Leafs because there's just definitely something off about him. But that's going to be all from me in this video. If you would like to hear more from me or from Center Ice, you can head on over to FromCenterIce.com. There's links to all the places you can find us over there. If you are more of a social media person, you can find the links to all of those platforms down in the description. Go ahead and give us a follow. And subscribe to this channel if you're not subscribed yet, and give this video a like because that would make me so very happy. All of that being said, thank you all so very much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. Get some rest, get ready for Saturday night's game, and go Leafs, go. I'll catch y'all in the next video. Bye guys.